Hello everyone and welcome to another casual review. Today I'm talking about Katana Zero. I would describe Katana Zero as a side-scrolling action game. It reminded me actually a lot of Hotline Miami, not necessarily in the gameplay, but rather in the really quick action-packed sequences where you can die instantly with a bullet. And if you do die, then you're kind of like jumped right back into the fray. There's no loading time or anything like that. So super difficult, but really quick paced. It's not as punishing as other games can be when you do die. The idea is you play as this samurai guy and he can manipulate time in some way or another, mostly being that when you are playing the game and you are like taking out all of the bad guys in the room, you're really just like planning out your idea of attack, because if you do end up getting shot or crushed or something like that, the words will appear, no, that won't work, and then you go back and it kind of like rewinds back to where you were at the beginning of the room, and you kind of try again and try to plan out your sequence of attack. And if you do successfully take all the people out in the room and fulfill the objective, then you do get the text like, yeah, that will work, and then you can kind of like watch that action sequence being played out. The other time manipulation ability you have is the ability to slow down time. And you might not need this at the beginning of the game, but if your reflexes are anything like mine, you will definitely need this at the end of the game, because you are really needing to slow down time in order to successfully take out all the guys, because if they see you in the room, they will immediately start shooting at you. The cool thing about this game is you can actually deflect bullets, and so if some guy shoots a bullet at you, you can slow down time, hit the bullet, bounce the bullet back at the guy. You also have the use of like jumping on walls and throwing items if you can pick them up. And so as you can imagine, you can pull off a lot of really cool stunts when you can slow down time, take out the 4 guys in the room, and then the time resumes back to normal. You'll also really want to utilize your dodge roll, because this gives you iframes, invincibility frames when you are rolling. So this gives you the ability to roll through bullets or roll through lasers, things like that. And so it's really funny because as you are struggling with a certain level, maybe there's like 4 guys in a room and you can't take them all out at once, and you just keep dying over and over again. You slowly start to synergize this technique, this tactic, this plan of action as you are going into the room. And when you finally do pull it off, you're like, oh yeah, that's the clip that I want to save. I want to show everyone that clip where I successfully maneuvered my way around this room and took out all these guys because I'm so skilled. And you don't want them to see all of your past failures in this room. It's a really interesting plot, and I don't think it's as cryptic as Hotline Miami was, although there is a lot of mystery behind it. Basically, your character keeps visiting this quote-unquote psychologist, I guess, and you're kind of talking to him about dreams that you've had or things that have happened in your life, and then he shoots you up with something. You'll find out later what it is, and then he gives you a dossier that has a target that you need to go hit. And so he's kind of like your employer, but also your psychologist. It's a lot gets revealed later on that I don't want to spoil here. As you can imagine, with the whole time manipulation, there's a lot of glitching out, and there's a lot of like jumping into the past maybe, or maybe the future. After you hit your target, then some more story develops. You're like trying to figure out what situation your character is in exactly. And then you like return back to your dirty apartment, and you can, drink some herbal tea and watch TV, and the story develops in that apartment as well when you encounter this little girl who lives next door. And so it's very much like Hotline Miami in that way too, where you have like your action-y kind of sequence, and then you go back to your trashed out apartment, but things change every time you return back home. I really like the dialogue in this game. They have this whole unique feature where usually if somebody is talking to you or explaining something, you kind of have this time meter at the bottom where you can just interrupt them and say like, shut up, I don't want to hear what you have to say, or something like that. And if you do interrupt them, then their little dialogue text box kind of erupts and all the letters fall down to the ground. Or after you wait a certain amount of time for them to finish what they're saying, then you can kind of choose how you respond in most cases. I'm not sure if this directly affects the story. There was one dialogue option where you can potentially end the game a lot earlier and then the credits roll and then you can just, oh well, I want to play the rest of the game, and then you jump back and answer differently. But other than that, I'm not sure if there's much that you can say or do that will affect the actual outcome of the game. The text also does like that very colorful, personable thing that I love ever since, I don't know, a game like Undertale, where you can, as you are reading, you can, in your mind, you can hear how the character is saying the words, because like sometimes the words will be like wavy if they're emphasizing it, or they'll be colorful, or if they're yelling, it'll show up like really big and red. And so it's got a lot of personality in the dialogue without there being any actual voice acting. It kind of does that Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask thing where after every time you like beat a mission, it'll say 10 days remaining, 9 days remaining, 8 days remaining, and you're wondering, what are we counting down to? And so you know that you're building up to something, you just don't know what. The music is really great, really electronic hi-fi kind of music, again similar to Hotline Miami, and the visuals are absolutely great too. Really good pixel animation graphics, like you can tell exactly what's going on in the scene, how your character's expressing through these pixels. It's so animated and fluid. They do like the really cool thing sometimes when you defeat a boss or something, everything turns white except the silhouettes are black, and so they do a lot of visually impressive things too. The game is fairly short. Took me maybe 4 hours to beat, depending on how fast you can clear the rooms. If you're good at games like this, you probably could beat it a lot faster than that. And once you do beat the game, you do unlock additional modes. I was too scared to touch the hard mode, but there is some additional gameplay there if you choose. And the story kind of leaves things ambiguous in terms of like the resolution. There's obviously going to be a sequel because it tells you to be continued, or at least I hope there's a sequel. This game did well enough that I feel like they will be encouraged to make the sequel, because some of the stuff did get answered in terms of the questions that you have about the story, but a lot of other stuff still is questionable. And so I really want to see how this story plays out. It plays out like the character is so much like a John Wick-esque type, where he is like stoic and hardcore. The game story really plays out like an action movie, like a John Wick. I had a lot of fun playing this game. I do think that it's pretty short, and you're not going to hear this complaint from me very often, but I wouldn't have been upset with some extra levels, with some extra game length. I do feel like it was pretty short, and it definitely left me wanting more. But I guess that's only a good thing, because I do want to keep playing it. I'm actually going to give this game a 5 out of 5, and I think a big thing that sets this game apart from other games that I've played that are like similar kind of gameplay, like My Friend Pedro, is I was really invested in the character and the story alongside with the great gameplay. Well guys, that's it for me. Let me know if you have any questions or comments about Katana Zero, and I'd love to hear what you have to say. Otherwise, I'll talk to you later. Bye!